Drafting early round wide receivers can make or break your fantasy football team this year in fantasy football. So let's talk about it. First player is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. And as you can see from the two jerseys behind me, I love some Ohio State football. So seeing Marvin Harrison Jr. over the last 3 years has been amazing. Getting drafted in the top 5 picks to the Arizona Cardinals, we absolutely love it. My issue with Marvin Harrison Jr. right now, ladies and gentlemen, is his current price over on Underdog. If we're looking at Underdog, he's coming off the board as overall wide receiver 9, overall player 13. So you're having to take him in the early part of the second round. Now, I do know that wide receivers over the last few years with the pedigree of a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., we have 100% seen them be able to perform at the NFL level, being able to succeed in fantasy football. But typically when we're talking about those wide receivers, we've seen them go anywhere like a Jamar Chase type to a Justin Jefferson type to a CeeDee Lamb type. You've been able to get them in rounds 3, 4, 5, 6 of Underdog drafts. And all of a sudden this year, we're talking about having to address and put early second round draft capital into a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, I know he's generational. I love the landing spot with Kyler Murray, with Trey McBride in this Arizona Cardinals offense because he is going to be the overall wide receiver 1. This is my issue. I've been doing my projections for the NFL season for fantasy football. And right now with Marvin Harrison Jr., he is slotting in right now. Like I said, we're editing it. We're doing our final touches, but coming in at wide receiver 11 right now with projected 261 points per game. We got some other wide receivers above Marvin Harrison Jr. And really for me, when I'm looking at Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm excited about it because right now, like I said, in PPR, we have him at 261 fantasy points. I have him getting like 151 targets, 100 receptions, having a 66% catch rate, 1,250 yards, and 6 total touchdowns. So really, like for me in these projections, and I know I'm just making them, but if for some reason he was able to get 150 targets and get more than 100 receptions, of course, we're talking about him as a dude that can absolutely eat. My worry is are my projections, even when I'm doing this and I'm like, you know what, I feel like they're pretty standard projections for a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. stature, are they a little bit much? Like, are those projections much? And that's what makes me worried about Marvin Harrison Jr. because we can't go off what Marvin Harrison Jr. did last year and we can't really base it off of the competition because there's not a lot of competition. So I could easily see Marvin Harrison Jr. finishing as a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy football. I could also see the fact that Marvin Harrison Jr. finishes as a top 25 wide receiver in fantasy football. But if he's a top 25 and you had to spend top 10 wide receiver draft capital on Marvin Harrison Jr., that's going to cause a little bit of an issue and put you in a little bit behind the 8 ball on your fantasy football team. So let me know what you think of Marvin Harrison Jr. down below. I think he's a make or break wide receiver. Honestly, in my heart of hearts, I want to see him make, but right now it's so hard to see if he's going to be a make or break type player for fantasy football. My second make or break wide receiver is going to be Malik Nabers. And a lot of the same things that we just talked about with Marvin Harrison Jr. can be applied to Malik Nabers in the fact that Malik Nabers is also a rookie wide receiver going in the 3rd round of Underdog drafts, coming off the board as wide receiver 19 behind guys like Mike Evans, Devontae Smith, ahead of guys like DK Metcalf and DJ Moore who have done it before. And while I know the ultimate level upside of these guys like a Malik Nabers, like a Marvin Harrison Jr. is there, Malik Nabers actually lands in a lot worse spot than Marvin Harrison Jr., where he lands with the New York Giants, and he is being thrown the ball by Daniel Jones. Now, there's no one else, no other target competition for a guy like Malik Nabers, who we looked at as a prospect, as super elusive, really great after the catch. And so you're saying to yourself, Caleb, if Malik Nabers can absolutely pop off, there's a lot of reason to be excited about Malik Nabers. Now, currently in my projections, I have Malik Nabers slotting in as wide receiver 24. So, like I said, a little bit behind the Underdog ADP on Malik Nabers. Not that I don't love Malik Nabers. I drafted him in a ton of dynasty leagues. I'm probably going to have a ton of shares of him in redraft. I'm just a little worried about this overall cost because what is this opportunity going to be like? I really think he's going to get somewhere around like 120 to 125 targets if he stays healthy throughout the entire season, which is that going to be enough big play ability for him to be able to really dominate and return that top 20 value? I don't know. It makes me a little bit worried. Like I said, Malik Nabers and Marvin Harrison Jr., like I'm going to have plenty of shares, but it makes me just slightly concerned about their overall outlook. Let me know. Do you think they are going to make fantasy football or break fantasy football? Let me know down below. My third player that I think could make or break fantasy football as a wide receiver is going to be Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp burst onto the scene in 2021 with that wide receiver 1 amazing season, 25.9 fantasy points per game. 2022, though, I know he played in 9 games and got hurt, but he did lead the league in points per game with 22.4 fantasy points per game. Now, last season, we saw the emergence of Puka Nacua, and we saw Cooper Kupp, of course, battle with injuries again in 2023, where he only played in 12 games and averaged 13.7 points per game. And when we're looking at Cooper Kupp's overall underdog value, coming off the board is wide receiver 22. And there's a lot to like with Cooper Kupp, and there's a lot to be worried about with Cooper Kupp. But when I'm really honestly looking at Cooper Kupp and how things should be playing out for him this year, I mean, clearly Puka Nacua is going ahead of him. Puka Nacua is being valued as alpha, but even in 12 games last year, we're talking about Cooper Kupp getting 95 total targets on a target share opportunity. He was wide receiver 16 with a 25% target share, even though he was injured and out there. So if Cooper Kupp can somehow bite the injury bug and fight it off and play more than 12, get back to playing like 17, could he play 15, 16, 17 games? I think Cooper Kupp returning that wide receiver 22 value that you have to draft him at is absolutely incredible on the underdog streets. So I love some Cooper Kupp. Right now with Cooper Kupp, I mean, he's got a long range of outcomes just depending on what's going to be happening with him. But I am super excited for Cooper Kupp at this overall value. I think he could definitely break fantasy football. And I know that's not like something to just say, but I think he could definitely get back to being maybe not overall wide receiver 1 upside, but I think he could get back to being a top 10 wide receiver on a points per game basis. And that's all you're going to need at that current value for Cooper Kupp to absolutely smash. And I want to bring up 2 more players, and talking about 2 guys in this Kansas City Chiefs offense in Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice. And a lot of people are excited about both of them. So let's dive in first with Mr. Hollywood Brown, who signs over from the Arizona Cardinals to the Kansas City Chiefs. And he's currently going off the board as a wide receiver 32 on underdog overall player 51. And the thing is with Hollywood Brown, I am nervous about what his overall target share is going to be. When we're looking at him in my rankings right now, I have him all the way down at wide receiver 37. And I think the reason that I have him so low is because I don't know like how many targets he's actually going to get in an offense that is dominated in targets by a guy like Travis Kelce. And so when we're looking at Travis Kelce, who typically like over the last 3 years has had a target share anywhere between like 19%, anywhere to like 24% as a tight end, which is absolutely incredible. What's going to be the room for a guy like Hollywood Brown, especially aside a guy like Rashee Rice, and they get Xavier Worthy to come in. So when I was doing my projections, really when I was looking at Hollywood Brown, he was going to end up somewhere around like a 15 to 16% target share, which in my rankings right now puts him as wide receiver 37 off the board. Now, in the same token with Rashee Rice, I have Rashee Rice all the way down as wide receiver 38. So I have definitely loved some Rashee Rice in his overall value. Right now, he's wide receiver 40 on underdog. So I think Rashee Rice is appropriately valued based on that upside that he should be having. So I think Rashee Rice has all the possibilities that if he doesn't get suspended this year, that he is able to play a full game spectrum. We saw Rashee Rice really return on like top 24 wide receiver numbers last year, and you're getting that discount to wide receiver 40 this year. So I absolutely love Rashee Rice. I think there's ultimate level game breaking upside with Rashee Rice, but with Hollywood Brown, I'm a little bit concerned. So let me know down below, Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, do you agree with their current values? Do you think they are make or break? Because like if I had to put my money on it, I think Rashee Rice makes my fantasy football team. I think Hollywood Brown actually breaks. So let's put it together. Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm kind of in the middle, being neutral. I want to hear what your thoughts are. I think the potential that is there, but I think his current cost is a little bit too much. Malik Nabers, I'm kind of out at his current price, even though I know the upside and the targets are absolutely there. I'm just worried about his overall situation. We got Cooper Kupp, who I think is going to definitely make fantasy football this year, barring any type of injuries. And then Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice. So let me know what you think of these 5 guys down below. Hit that like and subscribe button if you like fantasy football. We're going to be providing a lot more fantasy football content for you as we head into July, August. It's going to be absolutely great. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.